Saturday came, and I spent the morning cleaning the house obsessively, like having perfect baseboards would somehow fix everything. When I heard his key in the door, my heart jumped into my throat. I barely recognized him. He'd gotten a haircut, not just a trim, but an actual style that looked intentional and expensive. He was wearing clothes I'd never seen before, dark jeans that fit him well, and a button-down shirt that looked tailored. He'd clearly been working out, too. His shoulders looked broader, his posture straighter. "You look different," I said, hovering in the doorway as he moved through our house like a polite stranger. "I feel different," he replied without looking at me directly. I watched him pack his things with military precision, each movement deliberate and efficient. He wasn't taking everything, just clothes, some books, his laptop. Personal items that would fit in a couple of suitcases. "Greg, can we please talk about this? We can fix this." He paused, a shirt halfway into his suitcase. "Fix what, Sarah? The fact that you don't want to be married to me?" "I never said that. You said you wouldn't choose me again. That's the same thing." My throat felt tight. "I was having a bad day. I didn't mean it." "But you felt it. And you know what the worst part is? I've been so focused on trying to be who you wanted me to be that I forgot who I actually am. I forgot that I deserve to be with someone who actually wants to be with me." I started crying then, ugly, desperate crying. "I do want to be with you." He looked at me for the first time since he'd arrived, and there was something in his expression that might have been pity. "No, Sarah. You want to be with the version of me that existed in your head, the one who never gained weight, never got tired after work, never became human. That's not love. That's just expectation." What I'm about to tell you will probably make you hate me, but I need to share this story because if it saves even one marriage, then maybe my complete destruction of my own will have been worth something. I remember the exact moment my life imploded. My name's Sarah, I'm 29, and 3 words to my sister cost me everything I didn't even know I valued. It started with what I thought was just a normal conversation. You know the kind, complaining to your sister about your husband like it's no big deal, like you're talking about a bad haircut instead of the person you promised to love forever. I had no idea he was listening. I had no idea those casual, throwaway words would end my marriage, destroy the man I loved, and teach me the hardest lesson of my life. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, because the beginning is where I made my first mistake, thinking that love meant I could say whatever I wanted without consequences. I was sitting in our kitchen, venting to my twin sister Emma about my husband Greg. You know how it is with sisters. You say things you'd never say to anyone else, things that are supposed to stay between you. Except this time they didn't. It had been one of those weeks where everything felt off. Greg had been working late again, coming home exhausted and basically collapsing on the couch with his phone. We'd been married for 3 years, and somewhere along the way, we'd fallen into this routine that felt more like parallel lives than a partnership. I was frustrated, feeling invisible, and Emma was the perfect person to dump all of this on. If I had to do it all over again, I told Emma, stirring my coffee like it was no big deal, I wouldn't marry Greg. Like, I love him, but if I could go back knowing what I know now, I'd probably choose differently. Emma raised an eyebrow. That's kind of harsh, don't you think? I shrugged. I'm just being honest. Look at him. He's gained like 30 pounds since we got married. He never wants to go out anymore. And when's the last time he actually planned something romantic? He's just comfortable. Too comfortable. But he's a good guy, Sarah. He adores you. Being adored isn't enough, I said, and I meant it in that moment. I want passion. I want someone who still tries to impress me, you know? Greg acts like he's already won the prize, so why bother putting in effort anymore? I was on a roll now, the frustration of months bubbling over. Remember how he used to surprise me with little dates? How he'd actually dress up when we went out? Now he shows up to dinner in cargo shorts and a wrinkled t-shirt and thinks that's fine. It's like he's given up on trying to be attractive. Sarah, Emma started, but I cut her off. And don't even get me started on our sex life. It's like clockwork now. Same position, same routine, over in 10 minutes. Where's the spontaneity? Where's the guy who used to make me feel like I was the most desirable woman in the world? The words just tumbled out. I wasn't even thinking. I was just being honest about how I'd been feeling lately. Bored. Restless. Like we'd settled into this comfortable routine that felt more like roommates than lovers. That's when I heard it. The silence that felt like the air being sucked out of the room. It wasn't Emma's silence. She was used to my rants. This was different. Heavier. I turned around, and there he was. Greg, standing in the doorway with a grocery bag in his hands, and this expression I'd never seen before. Not angry, not hurt, just blank. Like he was processing something that didn't compute. The grocery bag slipped from his hands and hit the floor with a dull thud. A can of tomatoes rolled across the kitchen tiles, and none of us moved to stop it. "How long have you been standing there?" I asked, my voice suddenly small. He didn't answer, just looked at me for what felt like forever, his eyes searching my face like he was trying to figure out who I was. Then he turned and walked out. The front door closing behind him was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. "Shit," Emma whispered. "Sarah, how much do you think he heard?" "I don't know." My heart was racing now. "Probably not much. He just got home from the store." But even as I said it, I knew I was lying to myself. The look on his face told me everything I needed to know. He'd heard enough. I actually tried to laugh it off. "He'll be back," I told Emma, who was staring at me with this horrified expression. "He's just being dramatic. Greg doesn't do confrontation. He'll cool off and come back, and we'll talk it out like we always do." But Emma wasn't buying it. "Sarah, the look on his face. I don't think he was being dramatic. You basically just told me you regret marrying him." I was venting. God, can't I have one conversation with my sister without it becoming a federal case? The truth was, I was starting to panic, but I wasn't about to admit that. Instead, I doubled down on my righteous indignation. If Greg wanted to storm off instead of having an adult conversation, that was his problem. 1 hour turned into 2. 2 turned into 4. By dinner time, I was checking my phone every few minutes, but there was nothing. No angry texts, no missed calls, nothing. Greg wasn't the type to give me the silent treatment. When we fought, we hashed it out pretty quickly. This radio silence was completely out of character. "Maybe you should call him," Emma suggested when she was getting ready to leave. "Why should I call him? He's the one who stormed out like a child." Emma gave me a look. "Because you love him?" "Of course I love him. That doesn't mean I have to chase after him every time he gets his feelings hurt." After Emma left, the house felt enormous and way too quiet. I tried to distract myself with Netflix, but I couldn't focus on anything. Every sound outside made me think it was Greg coming home, but it never was. By midnight, I was pacing the living room, checking my phone every 30 seconds. I finally broke down and called him. It went straight to voicemail. Then I texted, "Okay, you've made your point. Can you please just come home so we can talk about this, like adults?" No response. I called again an hour later. Voicemail again. "Greg, this is ridiculous. I know you're upset, but hiding from me isn't going to solve anything. Just come home." Still nothing. By 2 a.m., I was oscillating between fury and genuine worry. On one hand, how dare he make me sit here wondering where he was? On the other hand, what if something had happened to him? Greg wasn't the type to disappear without a word. He was responsible, predictable, safe. That's part of what had been driving me crazy about him lately, but it was also one of the things I'd originally fallen in love with. I barely slept that night. Every creak of the house made me think he was coming home, but morning came, and his side of the bed was still empty. "Maybe you should apologize," Emma suggested when I called her, panicking. For what? I snapped. For being honest? For having feelings? He shouldn't have been eavesdropping on a private conversation. Sarah, listen to yourself. You told me you wouldn't marry him again. That's not just having feelings. That's saying you regret one of the biggest decisions of your life. I was frustrated. Everyone says things they don't mean when they're frustrated. Do they, though? Because you sounded pretty convinced to me. I hung up on her. The last thing I needed was my own sister taking his side. The next morning, his side of the bed was still empty. His toothbrush was there, his clothes were there, but Greg, gone. It was like he'd just evaporated. I went through the motions of getting ready for work, but my mind was elsewhere. Where could he be? Greg didn't have a lot of close friends. He was more of a homebody, which had been another source of frustration for me. His college buddies lived in different states, and he wasn't close enough with his work colleagues to crash on their couches. I tried calling his mom around lunchtime, trying to sound casual. Hey, Joan, how are you? I was just wondering if you'd heard from Greg lately. Not since last week, honey. Is everything okay? Oh yeah, everything's fine. He mentioned he might call you about something, but maybe I misunderstood. Well, you know Greg, he's not the most talkative when it comes to phone calls, but if you see him, tell him I said hi. I hung up feeling even more confused. If he wasn't with his mom, where was he? That afternoon, I did something I'd never done before. I checked our bank account. I told myself it was just to make sure he was okay, but really I was looking for clues. And there it was. A charge from the Hampton Inn, about 20 minutes from our house. Posted that morning. My husband was literally hiding from me in a hotel room. The audacity of it hit me like a slap. We were married, for God's sake. We lived together, shared a bed, shared a life, and he was paying money to avoid me? It felt like the ultimate rejection, and it made me angrier than anything else had. I drove there immediately, my anger building with every mile. This was insane. We were adults in a marriage, not teenagers playing games. If he had something to say to me, he could say it to my face instead of running away like a coward. I marched up to the front desk, my heels clicking against the marble floor. I need to know what room my husband is in. Greg Martinez, he checked in this morning. The desk clerk, a young woman with perfectly styled hair and a practiced smile, shook her head. I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't disclose guest information for privacy reasons. He's my husband, I said, louder than I intended. We share a bank account. I can see the charge right here on my phone. I understand your frustration, but our policy is very clear. I cannot give out room numbers or confirm whether someone is staying here. I wanted to scream. Instead, I found myself saying, Can you at least tell him his wife is here? Can you call his room? I can try, but if he doesn't want to come down, there's nothing I can do. She made the call. I watched her face as she spoke into the phone, and I could tell from her expression that someone had answered. She spoke in hushed tones, glancing at me occasionally. I'm sorry, she said after hanging up. He says he's not available to see visitors right now. The humiliation was instant and complete. My own husband had just rejected me through a hotel desk clerk. I felt my face burning as I walked back to my car, hoping no one could see how close I was to crying. That night was the longest of my life. I kept checking my phone, refreshing our text thread like somehow a message would appear that I'd missed. I tried calling him again around 10 p.m., but it went straight to voicemail. I almost left another message, but what was I supposed to say? Please stop hiding from me in a hotel room like I'm some kind of stalker. The second day was worse. The silence felt heavier, more ominous. I went to work, but I couldn't concentrate on anything. My coworkers kept asking if I was okay, and I found myself lying, saying I was fighting off a bug or something. How do you explain to people that your husband has literally disappeared because you said you wouldn't marry him again? I called Emma during my lunch break. He's still not home. Have you tried apologizing? For what? But even as I said it, the fight was going out of me. I mean, I know I hurt his feelings, but the way he's handling this is so immature. He won't even talk to me. Sarah, put yourself in his shoes for a second. The woman he loves just told her sister that she regrets marrying him, that she wouldn't choose him again. How is he supposed to respond to that? He's supposed to come home and talk to me about it, not run away and hide in a hotel room. Maybe he needs time to process. Maybe he doesn't trust himself to have that conversation right now. That possibility hadn't occurred to me. I'd been so focused on my own hurt feelings, the rejection, the humiliation of being avoided, that I hadn't really thought about what this might be doing to him. The third day, I was a complete mess. I'd barely eaten, couldn't sleep, and was jumping every time I heard a car door outside. I kept imagining worst-case scenarios. What if he never came back? What if he'd decided he was done with our marriage? What if I'd finally pushed him too far? Around noon, I was sitting at the kitchen table staring at my untouched sandwich when I heard his key in the front door. My heart stopped. I wanted to run to him, to throw my arms around him and apologize for everything, but something held me back. Maybe it was pride, or maybe it was fear of his rejection. When he walked through that door, he looked different. Not physically. He was wearing the same jeans and flannel shirt he'd had on when he left. But there was something in his posture, his expression. He looked calmer, maybe, more resolved. It scared me. "We need to talk," he said, setting down a small duffel bag I'd never seen before. "Yeah, no kidding," I shot back, and immediately regretted the sarcasm in my voice. "You want to explain why you've been playing hide-and-seek for 3 days?" He sat down heavily on our couch, the same spot where he usually watched TV after work. But he wasn't relaxed now. He was sitting forward, elbows on his knees, like he was bracing himself for something. "I needed time to think about what you said." "Greg, come on. I was just venting to Emma. You know how I get when I'm frustrated." "Frustrated about what, exactly?" His voice was quieter than usual, but there was something steel-like underneath. "About being married to me?" I felt my face flush. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean, Sarah? Because from where I was standing, it sounded like you regret marrying me. It sounded like you think I'm a fat, lazy disappointment who doesn't try hard enough to make you happy." The directness of it caught me off guard. Greg wasn't usually so blunt, so confrontational. He was more of a smooth things-over kind of guy, which had always worked for us before. "You're twisting my words," I said, but my voice sounded weak even to me. "Am I? Because I remember you saying I'd gained 30 pounds. I remember you complaining about our sex life to your sister. I remember you saying I don't try to be attractive anymore." Oh God, he'd heard all of it. Every cruel, thoughtless word. The conversation spiraled from there. I found myself getting defensive, trying to justify what I'd said, but everything that came out of my mouth made it worse. "I wasn't trying to hurt you," I said. "I was just being honest about how I've been feeling. Is that such a crime?" "Honest about what? That you're disappointed in me? That you think I've let myself go?" "Well," I hesitated, knowing I should stop, but the words came out anyway. "Haven't you? When's the last time you worked out? When's the last time you planned a real date for us? You've gotten comfortable, Greg. Maybe too comfortable." His face changed, not angry exactly, but something colder, more final. "You're right," he said quietly. "I have gotten comfortable. I thought that's what marriage was, being able to relax with the person you love, not having to perform or prove yourself every single day. I thought we were building a life together. We are building a life together, but that doesn't mean we should stop trying to be attractive to each other." "Is that what you think I've done? Stopped trying?" I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in this conversation. He was wearing a flannel shirt I'd bought him for Christmas 2 years ago. His hair was a little messy, like he'd been running his hands through it. He'd definitely gained some weight since our wedding, but he wasn't fat. He was just normal, like a real person instead of the idealized version I'd apparently been expecting him to remain forever. "I think you've gotten comfortable," I said, but with less conviction than before. "Comfortable," he repeated, like he was testing the word. Sarah, I work 50 hours a week at a job I hate to pay for the house you wanted. I come home and listen to you complain about your coworkers, your friends, your family. I rub your feet when you're tired and make you tea when you're stressed. I remember your favorite coffee order, I never forget your birthday, and I still tell you I love you every single day. If that's comfortable, then yeah, I guess I'm guilty. I opened my mouth to respond, but he wasn't done. You want to know what I think? I think you're bored. I think you're looking for problems because the alternative is admitting that maybe you're the one who's changed. Maybe you're the one who's stopped trying. That's not fair, isn't it? When's the last time you asked me about my day and actually listened to the answer? When's the last time you initiated sex instead of just lying there checking your phone? When's the last time you did something nice for me without expecting something in return? Each question hit like a physical blow because I couldn't answer them. I couldn't remember the last time I'd done any of those things. I wanted to argue, but something in his tone stopped me. You're being unfair, I said, but my voice cracked. I do things for you. Like what? I scrambled for examples. I cook dinner, I do the laundry. You cook dinner because you're hungry. You do laundry because you need clean clothes. Those aren't gifts, Sarah. They're basic adulting. The silence stretched between us, heavy and uncomfortable. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but every response I could think of sounded hollow. I've spent 3 years trying to make you happy, he continued, his voice steady but tired. Walking on eggshells, trying to be better, trying to be enough. But it's never enough, is it? There's always something wrong with me. I'm too fat, too lazy, too boring, too comfortable. I'm not the man you thought you married. Greg, that's not. It is, though. And you know what I realized while I was sitting in that hotel room? I'm done. I'm done, trying to prove my worth to someone who doesn't see it. The words hit me like a physical blow. What are you saying? He stood up slowly, picking up the duffel bag. I'm saying I deserve better than this. I deserve to be with someone who wants to be with me, not someone who sees me as a consolation prize. I never said, you didn't have to say it, Sarah. It's been written all over your face for months. Every time I try to touch you, every time I suggest we spend time together, every time I walk into a room, you look at me like I'm a disappointment. I felt tears starting to burn behind my eyes, but I was too proud to let them fall. So what, you're leaving me? Over one stupid comment? This isn't about one comment. This is about 3 years of feeling like I'm not enough. This is about realizing that I've been trying so hard to be the husband you wanted that I forgot who I was supposed to be. He moved toward the door, and panic shot through me. Greg, wait. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work on it. He paused at the door, his hand on the handle. I don't want to work on it anymore, Sarah. I'm tired of working on it. I'm tired of being treated like a project that needs fixing. And then he was gone again, leaving me standing in our living room with the echo of his words ringing in my ears. The next few weeks were the worst of my life. I kept expecting him to come back, to show up at the door ready to work things out like we always did. But the texts I got were different. Polite, distant, formal. I'll be by Saturday to get some of my things. Please leave my mail on the kitchen counter. Hope you're doing well. Each message felt like a door closing, like we were strangers being polite to each other instead of two people who'd shared a bed and a life for 3 years. I tried reaching out to him, testing the waters with casual messages. Saw something funny that reminded me of you? How's work going? That restaurant we liked is closing. But his responses were always brief and non-committal. That's too bad. Work's fine. Thanks for letting me know. The house felt enormous without him. Every room held memories. The kitchen where we'd danced to music from my phone while making dinner. The living room where we'd binge-watched entire seasons of shows. The bedroom where he'd held me through food poisoning and panic attacks and bad days at work. I started sleeping on the couch because our bed felt too big, too empty. I'd catch myself setting the table for two or buying his favorite yogurt at the grocery store. The worst part was how normal everything looked from the outside. The neighbors still waved, the mailman still delivered our mail to the same box, but inside, my entire world had shifted. Emma came over one evening with takeout and wine, clearly on a mission to stage an intervention. "You look terrible," she said, not unkindly. "Thanks, that's exactly what I needed to hear." "When's the last time you washed your hair, or changed out of those sweats?" I looked down at myself. I was wearing the same yoga pants I'd had on for 3 days, and my hair was definitely greasy. "I've been busy." "Doing what? Wallowing?" "I'm not wallowing. I'm processing." Emma gave me a look. "Okay, let's process. What exactly are you planning to do here? Are you going to apologize? Are you going to fight for your marriage? Or are you just going to sit here feeling sorry for yourself until he files for divorce?" The divorce word hit me like a slap. "He's not going to file for divorce. We're just taking a break." "Sarah, he moved out. He's been gone for almost a month. His mail is getting forwarded to a different address. This isn't a break. This is a separation." "You don't know that. I know that you told me you wouldn't marry him again. He heard you, and now he's gone. I know that instead of fighting for him, you're sitting here making excuses." I felt my face flush with anger. "I'm not making excuses. I'm the one who got abandoned, remember? I'm the one whose husband disappeared instead of having an adult conversation." "He tried to have an adult conversation. You told me yourself that he came back and you guys talked. What did you say to him?" I was quiet for a moment, remembering. "I told him the truth, that he'd gotten comfortable, that maybe we both needed to try harder." "And what did he say?" "He said..." I paused, trying to remember his exact words. "He said he was tired of trying to prove his worth to someone who doesn't see it." Emma was quiet for a long moment. "And what did you say to that?" "I told him we could work on it, that we could go to counseling." "But did you apologize?" The question hung in the air. I opened my mouth to say yes, of course I had, but the words wouldn't come, because I hadn't. I'd been so focused on defending myself, on explaining my position, that I'd never actually said I was sorry. "I didn't mean to hurt him," I said finally. "That's not the same as apologizing." "Why should I apologize for being honest about my feelings?" Emma set down her wine glass and looked at me seriously. "Because sometimes being honest means admitting when you're wrong. And Sarah, what you said about Greg, that was wrong. Not just hurtful, wrong." "How was it wrong?" "Because you made him sound like this lazy, unattractive burden when he's actually a good man who loves you. You focused on 30 pounds and some comfortable clothes instead of seeing everything he does for you." I wanted to argue, but something in her tone stopped me. I watched him fold his clothes with military precision, each movement deliberate. "Jake, can we please talk about this? We can fix this." He paused, a shirt halfway into his suitcase. "Fix what, Sarah? The fact that you don't want to be married to me?" "I never said that." "You said you wouldn't choose me again. That's the same thing." My throat tightened. "I was having a bad day. I didn't mean it." "But you felt it. And you know what the worst part is? I've been so focused on trying to be who you wanted me to be that I forgot who I was. I forgot that I deserve to be with someone who actually wants to be with me." I started crying then, ugly crying. "I do want to be with you." He looked at me with something that might have been pity. "No, Sarah, you want to be with the version of me that existed in your head. The one who never gained weight, never got tired after work, never became human. That's not love, that's just expectation." 2 months later, I saw him at Target. He was with a woman, brunette, average height, nothing spectacular. But she was looking at him like he hung the moon, and he was looking back at her the same way. The way he used to look at me. I hid behind the toilet paper display and watched them pick out dish soap together, laughing about something stupid. They looked happy. Effortlessly happy. That's when it hit me. I hadn't just lost my husband. I'd thrown away the one person who loved me exactly as I was, flaws and all. the person who'd chosen to wake up next to me every morning for 3 years, who'd listened to my work drama and held my hair back when I was sick and never once made me feel like I wasn't enough. And I'd repaid him by making him feel like he wasn't enough for me. The divorce papers came a week later. I signed them without reading them, because what was the point? I'd already lost him the moment I opened my mouth in that kitchen. Sometimes I wonder if he thinks about me, if he misses what we had. But mostly, I think about the look on his face when he overheard me that day. The way something just died in his eyes. I destroyed my marriage with one careless sentence. But the truth is, I'd been destroying it for months with 1,000 little cuts. Every criticism, every complaint, every moment I chose to see what was wrong instead of what was right. Jake didn't leave me because I said I wouldn't marry him again. He left me because I made him believe he wasn't worth staying for. And you know what? He was right to leave. Because the woman who could say those things about the man who loved her, she didn't deserve him. I just wish I'd figured that out before it was too late. Update. For everyone asking, no, we're not getting back together. He's engaged now. To the woman from Target. I saw the announcement on Instagram. They look happy, really, genuinely happy. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I'm happy for him too. He deserves that. He always did.